top, tell me your name and the year you graduated.
I'm Don Korb, and I graduated in 1970.
So the questions that we've been asking have kind of been focusing on the 75 season.
Right.
So what stands out the most when you think back to the 75 season?
About 75 or just the entire, like my time here or what?
Let's first start with 75.
Well, 75 was incredible. I mean, the year before was the first year that the team had Division III, and I'll never forget reading in the paper that we'd finished second. So as soon as the team got back here, I called up Coach, and he was on cloud nine and telling me all about it. No one expected that all of a sudden, and at that time he said, "We're in a great position to win it all next year, and it's going to be at Carroll." I said, "Go for it." The sad thing was, at that time I was living in Washington, 74, 5, 6, and 7. So I don't think I saw any of the home matches during that entire period. I did go up to Princeton in 70, it must have been 75, was that right? Princeton, and I saw the guys wrestle in the Division I Nationals, which was kind of neat. My brothers and I drove up there for the day. And of course, I mean, that's a big deal. It really was. So 75 was a highlight. I'd certainly like to see it repeated sooner rather than later.
And now let's talk about your time wrestling at John Carroll. What stands out the most to you?
Well, I was on the third team, and the most significant thing that happened that year is we won the PIC for the first time and never again lost it. We were champs from then on. And the way it happened was just incredible because we won it by 1 point, went down to the final match, the consolation heavyweight match, and we were trailing by 1, so if our heavyweight won, we'd go up by 1, and that's exactly what happened. And it was just stunning. And then after, I think we might have had 5 finalists. I think we had 3 champs. I was a finalist. I finished second. Another guy finished, we had 3 champs. Jim Schoen, who was the first PAC champ, Mike Kelly, and Frank Obermeyer. And it was a team, all freshmen and sophomores. And during the dual meet season, we had upset the defending champs from Washington and Jefferson. In that match, I was a 23-pounder. I was the first guy to wrestle, and I beat the defending 3-time champs. That was kind of neat. And I was a young guy. I was a freshman. I remember his wife and 2 kids were there. I'd never wrestled a wrestler before who had children. That was a first for me. But we surprised everybody. And later in that year, actually at Teal, I beat the defending 115-pound champ. So that was a great year. In terms of my career, when I was a senior, we had by then starting to wrestle Division I schools, and we had I think it was called a quadrangular at Notre Dame, South Bend, and so I beat 3 Division I wrestlers the same day, so that's kind of a high point. I did participate in a couple of national championship tournaments. And I guess a highlight of that year for me also was Cleveland State, who we always had a hard time with. When I was a freshman, there actually was a riot in the gym at the Cleveland State match because one of our wrestlers, John Parsons, who was the first wrestler to become go into the Hall of Fame here, was a leg wrestler, and he was losing his match third period on top, so he kept riding the guy. And the brother of the Cleveland State wrestler came out in the mat and hit John in the head with his shoe. And the place you don't do that at, an all-boys school in the middle of winter. It just erupted into a riot. And the rivalry went on from there. The next year we wrestled at Cleveland State. There were no fans allowed to attend. And then the last year I was here, the one I'm coming to, we wrestled at a neutral site, St. Ignatius on the west side. And it was the middle of a snowstorm, but still the place was packed. There were so many people there that they had people sitting between the bleachers and the mat. So you actually had to walk through the crowd to get to the mat. And I was a co-captain. The Cleveland State wrestler I was wrestling, a guy named Dwayne Kibler from Valley Forge High School. I went to Brush, so we were in the same league when we were in high school. He was the captain. He was called the Fearless Flea. My wife went to Cleveland State, so she would tell me how she'd read about this guy in the Cleveland State paper. And so I beat him 4-3, and it was a tough match. But that was really, that was kind of neat. So those would be highlights.
That's amazing. So what has the sport of wrestling and John Carroll wrestling culture taught you that you've carried on into your personal life?
That's a really good question. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow at the dedication of the wrestling room. To be successful in wrestling, you have to make sacrifices. I don't think I ate anything here for 4 years to make weight. I was the same weight class for 4 years. But seriously, learning how to sacrifice to achieve a goal is something any successful wrestler learns. And that certainly helped me throughout my career, or I can point to many, many instances where, for example, I've been in and out of the government. I'll be going back in a month or two to be in the Trump administration. And it just doesn't happen automatically. You have to make sacrifices in your career to make something like that happen. So that was probably the biggest lesson. Setting a goal and achieving it, that's a lesson. So wrestling's been a very important part of my life, going on, 50 years? No, more than that. 50, back to 9th grade, going back to 1962, so it goes back pretty far. And Carroll, the way, I assume it's still true, but to go through here in 4 years, you'll learn a lot of things about how you handle yourself, how you interact with people, that are very helpful lessons to learn. And recently I had to testify after I'd been nominated for this position I'm going to take shortly before the Senate Finance Committee in Washington, and there was a guy who was sitting next to me who was going to be Undersecretary in the Treasury Department, and he'd been to, I think, Yale and Harvard were his two schools. And somebody afterwards, a John Carroll guy who was there, said the difference he could see right off the bat was this guy, he was kind of mumbling, he was unsure of himself, and I was just totally opposite, jousting with the members, and he said that's the difference between John Carroll and the Ivy League, and he's probably right, Now, this better not be shown to that guy, okay? I don't want to have that happen.
Okay. There's a way we can do this. We can kind of dance around it a little bit, but the wrestling room, what do you want today's wrestlers, future Blue Streak wrestlers, what do you want them to go in the room and take away from the sport?
Well, the most important thing, I talked about sacrifice, right? You also have to learn your craft, okay? You have to learn how to be. If you want to be a national champion, All-American, conference champions, whatever, you really have to spend the time on the mat practicing, perfecting your craft. And now we'll have a room that'll make it easier for people to do that. And so that'd be the thing that I would want them to take away most from it, the opportunity they're being given. We did fine with the room we had here. I can remember there was a kind of a little room off to the side where constantly trying to lose weight, you'd be working out, and then you'd go in there and you cover yourself with all the extra mats that were laying in there. You'd try to sweat out every last bit of liquid in you. And so that for its time and place, it worked fine. But boy, to compete and to become a national championship caliber team, to be in the top 5 in Division III year in and year out, I think this room will make a big difference. So we're excited to be part of that.
So those are all my questions. If
Okay.
there's anything you want to add, you can. You don't have to.
Well, I will add one other thing is, back when we started out, just to compare with what was happening back in 1960, so it'd be 1966, 67, and today is, a lot of the schools we wrestled were in Western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Eastern Ohio. In those days, we traveled just by cars. So there'd be 3 cars. 5 of us would be packed into a car. Oftentimes, one of the wrestlers, Jim Roberts, who was our 115-pounder, he'd be driving one of the cars. Coach would. And we just drive off, going up and down these country roads, mountains on either side of us. That's the way it was. And we were given $2 a day meal money, which is big money back in those days. And what we ended up doing basically after a while was we'd create a pool. Who got the fastest pin? Throw your $2 in to equal 20 or 22, and whoever got the fastest pin got the whole thing. So it was a different time, but it was still neat. It was, and we were a pretty cocky bunch actually, because we were almost all local guys from local high schools who each kind of knew each other. In those days, that was pretty common in the Cleveland area because there was either one or two districts, various sectionals, so you really kind of knew each other, and it was really great to be part of that. And I guess I should not pass by the fact that Tony DiCarlo was our coach at least the years I was here, and then many years thereafter. And he served as a mentor to just countless wrestlers here, and a lot of successes were as a result of him. The 75 championship. Keep in mind, we won that first championship in 66, 67, less than 10 years ago. 10 years later, the team was national champs. And that doesn't happen by accident. So he was a spectacular recruiter, great motivator, and he got the most out of guys. He was terrific. Kerry followed him up, also had quite a bit of success. And now Mark, I think, will follow, using the wrestling room as a way to bring in quality kids, and then hopefully we'll be back in the national championship ranks. So, okay?
All right, fantastic.
All right, good. So you'll edit that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.